And welcome to the Human AI Alliance podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you to Stephanie Prenderville, an international expert in growth through people, author of the 3 C's of growth and the people side of AI. She has 25 years of global experience. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Lee. I am absolutely delighted to be here. Looking forward to this.
It's I think in terms of our introduction, it was a couple weeks ago now, and essentially we met at an AI event. But I wanted to kind of get a little bit of an intro out to our audience about your journey into AI, and more importantly, the people side of AI.
Okay, where did I start? So 2 years ago, just 2 years ago, when generative AI came screaming onto the scene, I had just started my consultancy practice, and my background is being a chief people officer, being a people leader, and a long time ago being in business development. And I was really thinking, well, HR has been my strength for the past 25 years, but nobody really likes HR. And do I really want to start business when nobody really likes HR? And AI came along, and I went, oh my God, this is an absolute game changer. This is going to change the way that organizations are structured, how people are interacting with machines, so therefore how we manage people, how we're going to remunerate people. It's radically changing how we get work done. And from an HR leader's perspective, there's no aspect of our service to an organization that isn't going to be or hasn't been completely upended as a result of AI. And I thought, well, I have to figure this out. I've got to get on top of this. And I just started eating, living, sleeping, drinking it, in every possible way. And I still can't use the remote control for the television if like Netflix doesn't come up when I hit the button, but I can hold my own talking about AI technology. So that's how I got started. It was the right thing to do from an HR leader perspective.
So I take it that catalyst was your journey into writing your book, The People Side of AI. So diving into your research that you did is, one of the first kind of questions that I have is why should organizations take a people first strategy as opposed to a technology first strategy? And, does that create a trust, or do you feel that that's the best way to get a trusted AI application tool set capability going within the business?
Trust is absolutely key. So, I've been doing change leadership for over 30 years. And consistently, whether it's technical change, whether it's process change, whether it's behavioral change, it always comes back to change success being about your people and starting what I call the messy beginning of any kind of a change journey. So often as change leaders, we think we need to have the I's dotted, the T's crossed, that we need to have a really good, slick narrative to take out to people. Or in Ireland, we like to say, we don't want to scare the horses. I actually encourage people, start at the messy beginning with your people, because that's the best way to build trust. And for today's workforce, there's an expectation that they are going to be involved on every part of the journey. There's an expectation they're going to be supported along every step of the way, even though we don't, from a leadership perspective, have all of the answers. And I might be jumping ahead to some of our other questions, but in Ireland, I see the lack of trust in not knowing how to use AI that well really slowing us down. And there's also a question of, why is it relevant to me in my business? Why is it relevant to me in my job? So I think as an employer, getting underneath those questions to really understand what the levels of trust are with your employees is absolutely a fundamental starting point. Your technology is never going to get fully adopted if you don't start there.
So I've got a kind of a statement and then a follow-on question to that is, so do you agree with this statement? The EU AI Act hinges on AI literacy. And then in that people first context, should this actually be on the top 3, top 5, top 10 of a C-suite's leaders to-do list?
Absolutely, but I'm talking my own book, but 100%. It has to be.
Please do.
It has to be on top of leaders' lists. Sorry, I don't want to have a double sound here. It has to be on C-suite leaders, on leaders of every size organization's list. And most of what I'm hearing from people right now is, yes, I'm interested, but I haven't gotten to it. And when I really probe, I actually heard this from a friend of mine I was having dinner with the other evening. He's an entrepreneur. He runs a small family-owned business. And he's like, I know that you're so passionate about it and you talk about it. So, he gave me the grace of saying eloquently, it's like, but honestly, how is it relevant to my business? So the statement in terms of the AI Act being it has to be founded on AI literacy is absolutely spot on. We fear most what we don't know. And it's also driving our hesitation to move forward with AI is because we haven't taken the time to get to know AI well enough in Ireland. So it's taking a certain amount of self-discipline for people to take the action to become more educated and understand how to use AI better, start to build their own AI literacy. But there's tons of tools out there that are free, that are paid, that are fantastic, that will really help people gain that understanding.
I think you're kind of talking to another, it's within the same sort of vein, but I think there is a lot of anxiety, because I think that's what you were talking about is the messy piece, right? Is there is a lot of anxiety within employees around job security, job change, potentially needing to kind of shift from one type of job to a slightly different job. And so, when you think about it from a practical perspective, like what would the frameworks be? So there's a legislative piece where you have to say, right, AI literacy has to come in. We need to do it at the executive level, all the way down to your devs, your deployers. But the key thing for me is how do you actually frame that message, and what would be a framework that would actually support that kind of change to alleviate the anxiety by actually going up and saying, guys, we don't quite know how it's going to work, but this is the framework, this is how we're going to play it down, and we feel that this route and this framework will give us the best direction. Do you have something like that? Is there anything out there?
I do. Let me show you what I've pre-prepared.
Excellent.
So I have a framework that, as all good frameworks should, start with a vision. A vision for AI is something that's actually going to cause a lot of anxiety for leaders, because they're like, oh my gosh, we're not even there yet. So let's call it a plan. Okay. So we start with a plan, and then we have 5 enablers to bring that plan to life. So your plan is at the very messy beginning, when you still don't have your AI figured out, you say to your people, here's our plan on how we think we're going to use AI in the organization. Here's how we see supporting you and helping you to learn how to use it, and how we see it helping you in your role, so that you actually have a better working life working with AI. It would be ideal if you were able to say that there aren't going to be immediate job losses, but if you anticipate job losses, you do actually need to be open and transparent. I would suggest that even before you think about replacing people with AI, that you start augmenting what people's current roles are with AI, and build the muscle in the organization with understanding the AI literacy and how it can actually work for the organization. So you start with that plan and tell them that you're going to be taking them on the journey. And then you've got 5 enablers. So the first one that, and you can do these in any order, but I'm going to do them in the order of what I see as the most impact. Okay. You start reskilling your people. And there's 7 skills that we can get into that I think are absolutely fundamental to any organization, whether they've started AI, haven't. This is for any business, because today people feel like they are becoming redundant in their jobs in terms of their ability to do their job. So they feel less capable of doing their jobs today than they did yesterday, because the world is moving so quickly. So start by reskilling your people in growth skills, starting with growth mindset. The second thing is to bring psychological safety. So put in, you have to go with this head first. What are the listening forums that you have in place, and put new ones in place where you know how people feel about using AI and how they're getting on with the reskilling that you're giving them so that they're using it effectively. Then you're going to need to put in governance. And this is where you and I bonded, quite a bit. I call it Goldilocks governance. So it's not too big, it's not too small, it's agile and in the middle, and you constantly keep your governance evolving to fit your changing business circumstance so that you're not in governance meetings all day. But that governance should provide people with, these are the reasons on why you should be using AI. This is how it's going to help us deliver our business objectives. This is how it's going to help you have a better employee experience. This is how you'll have a better how we'll give a better customer experience to our customers. So that governance is so key to provide that framework. Then we go into your business results. Now, anybody who's been doing change for as long as I have is going, why are you waiting until number 4 to talk about your business results? That's always been the number 1 of any change success, is, tie it to your key business results. But today's Millenn Z workforce are demanding to actually have, their focus is on a more emotional connection. They want the skilling and the support. They want the messaging. They want the psychological safety. They want the governance. Then they're ready to go into that number 4 being around your business results. And number 5, which makes a massive difference, and Gartner talks about this, Microsoft talks about this, all of the different examples of organizations that are ahead of the curve on adopting AI have a dedicated AI team. So it's not the same as a dedicated person. You might be a small organization that does not have the capacity to have one full-time person on AI, but it's a dedicated team across different functions to where you can coordinate your resources, make sure that you're aligned to your business results, to make sure your governance is working, make sure that people feel safe and that the skills that you're giving them are working. So those are the 5 key enablers. It's your recipe for success. And it's pretty much the same thing that you do for success in any change program. I've just adapted it to be really specific for AI, to make it really clear for leaders how simple it is to get started.
Yeah. So Sharon,
a lot to unpack there, but
yeah,
you asked for a whole framework.
there's a framework in there, guys. I think the part that I want to kind of come back to is the leadership element, because we've got a question here from Sharon, and it's basically saying, how can leaders create a culture that is that is comfortable being uncomfortable? So as you're going through that change, is how can you actually make it comfortable, which also then ties back to the messaging from leadership. So how should leadership frame AI internally with the media and kind of get comfortable with being uncomfortable?
It's a really, really good question, Sharon. And Lee, when you and I were doing our prep, we were talking about, the current geopolitical situation, and Trump and tariffs. And right now, we've become so overwhelmed with the amount of uncertainty that's going on that we're overwhelmed with the discomfort. But we actually need to create for ourselves a comfort with being uncomfortable, because it's not just lack of comfort inside the organization with how technology is changing, with how the impact that AI and technology and the pace and the new world of work are having. It's everything that's happening in our everyday lives. And one of the things that I think helps is positive intelligence. And it is an amazing concept that's been around over maybe 10 years or so. And you can look it up easily. It's positiveintelligence.com.
Okay. Okay.
It is a more approachable form of emotional intelligence. And the theory is our brains rest back in the amygdala in the fight flight mode, because as babies, that is the first thing that we learn. We learn to cry when we need something. That is our amygdala. That's our fight flight. So that developed before anything else did. Our mid cortex, where we learn, have empathy, love, deliver fantastic leadership, come up with creative ideas, um, fulfill our true potential as employees, and feel really connected to our organizations. That all sits here. We actually can train our brains to move our energy from that resting point in the back, which is exhausted right now. We've had so much cortisol and so much stress hormone from everything that's going on around us in the world. We're just wrecked being back there, that adrenaline nonstop. Come up here and you start to get all of your positive endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, all the really nice, lovely stuff that puts us in the right frame of mind. And as leaders, the way that we can help our employees switch that on is, one, give them that psychology safety, give them those learning forums where they can talk about how they feel and the support that you're going to give them the skilling, give them the governance, tell them why it's important about the organization. All of those 5 things are important. But also take the time as a leader to be sending the messages. Where your positivity comes from is the self-belief that you can do anything. Now, I'm probably being a bit Californian for an Irish audience today, but I'm sorry, Republic of California, not American today. That self-belief is so key in building our trust with AI. People are thinking, I'm too old. I don't know how to do technology. I've never been taught how to do this. I don't know how. Why should I bother? That's a non-growth mindset. So you need to challenge yourself. That's coming from the hindbrain. That's fight or flight going, I don't have time for this stuff. I'm busy being stressed out on Putin and Gaza and everything else that's going on in the world. To get up here, you need to actually put your energy into, I can do this. I want to do this. And that then leads into the self-compassion. How do I support my employees? How do I support my customers? How do I move us into a place that allows us to actually use technology for good and to use it responsibly, but choosing a positive way of bringing wellness into the environment, to recognize the uncomfortable is normal, but we can move into comfort by actually taking proactive steps.
So I'd like to kind of step out of the theory for a second, and kind of who was it? Mike Tyson. Everyone's got a plan until they're hit in the face, right? And that is typically where you might have an idea, you might have an idealistic idea in terms of how you would like to do it. Even if you're a one-man solopreneur and you kind of taking on the AI world, or a 10-man business, or 10,000, you're going to hit up against the realities of resources, time, effort, geopolitics, local politics, just customers not buying, anything along those lines could be coming at you. So kind of beyond the trust and beyond all of that, when you are faced with real hurdles, what are the action points that you can do? And again, as you said, it's very growth mindset, Carol Dweck kind of philosophy that is coming through, and I 100% subscribe to it. But not everyone does, and not everyone is in that growth mindset. So besides getting out of that, how do you actually circumvent where there isn't growth mindset, when you are actually kind of forced up against somebody that doesn't want to change, or an organization that is struggling with change? What are the practical things that that you would recommend actually implementing in a business? Again, even if it's just a solopreneur figuring out, right, I can do this.
There's a behavioral side to my answer and a technical side. So
Okay,
I'll talk
excellent.
to the technical side first. AI is so helpful in creating capacity for us by unlocking productivity.
Yeah,
So learning how to use AI, just learning to use ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or any of the public, available online free tools can free up so much of your time that allows you to do things that 3 people would have done in the past. So it's worthwhile to take the time to understand how to do that to get to what I call clear water. So I look through 3 lenses when looking at the people side of anything. I look through the lens of capacity, which is what you just touched on. So many of
yeah,
us are limited by the capacity of being human. There's only so much we can get done. But now that we've augmented ourselves with AI, and as we learn how to do that, we can become superhuman and our capacity can become much greater. That gives us the free time to then think about, gosh, there's this strategic stuff that I really wanted to be able to get to for years and just haven't had the space for. So
yeah,
using AI to get more effective is a starting point. Then if I flip over to the behavioral side and think about the other C's, the culture and the capability, do you have a culture that enables change is a critical starting point. And I can ask most leaders that, and if I don't give them too much time to think about it, they'll be able to tell me yes or no right away. We either have a culture that, yeah, it's pretty good if we come about change. Yeah, we're pretty good. And if they're being honest, they'll say, maybe around this, but maybe not around that. So being honest on what that answer is absolutely critical. And dissecting that into what does your culture support? Where is it agile? Where do people gravitate towards new things? And where do they push back? Because that's so important to understand in bringing people along the journey. And then the third C that's so critical goes back to the 7 skills that we were talking about, the
yeah,
capabilities.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
know that growth mindset is one, but we're talking specifically about, well, what about the people who are like, I'm just not there. You're better off with the people who say openly, I don't like AI, I'm not interested. I was talking to a former colleague of mine the other day, and she was really adamant, AI is actually too far ahead, and we can't manage its lack of ethics and its lack of bias. Really in the space of I'm not going there.
yeah,
What I've learned over the many years of looking through the lens of organizational change, you always want to welcome resistance. You want to hear it, you want to understand it. And I really took the time to understand where she was coming from and to try to get to the sources of information she'd been reading that were informing her, that led her to a somewhat inaccurate view that you can't control AI's bias. It is absolutely a key aspect of the risks that we need to manage. It's where our governance is really, really critical to come in, but we can manage it. And within an organization, where we start managing it is at source. So I'm working with a huge number of data scientists now. What you want to avoid is, as you're building out any of your technology solutions on AI, having to go in and chase up and that analyzing where the bias shows up or where some unethical behavior or it guiding into places that aren't showing the diversity and inclusion that we want it to from a decision-making perspective. You want to go all the way back to the source. So let me give you a very simple example. When you're using recruitment selection tools, almost all of those tools have an algorithm built in that the suppliers have to make publicly known to their users You have to go and ask them because they're not offering it willingly, but they have to make that available. And
Yeah.
you need to check in terms of how that algorithm is being applied to make sure that you are not having an ageist, sexist, or any other kind of divisive variable going into that selection process before you even start to go in and look at broader AI solutions. So I know, that's kind of a chunky answer. I love big chunky answers. You're looking simply through the lens of, do you have a culture that can enable change? If you don't, why? And getting down into those details, create the capacity for yourself by using AI to be more productive and to help your people become superhuman, and build the capabilities. And if I have time, I'll give you the seven skills.
Give the 7 skills.
Okay, so I call them gas seeds. AI and I came up with this together because it's a way to be able to remember it. So it's your fuels for growth. So
Okay.
gas, growth mindset, autonomy, and strategic thinking. That's going to give your people the fuel. The next ones, I had to start with a C because I couldn't figure out how to do the acronym with an S. So I spelled seed a little bit funky. So seed is So C is your creativity, entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
So really thinking about things through the lens of, if this were your business, how would you do it? Emotional intelligence and data literacy. That's going to enable your organization's growth. Those 7 gas seed skills, irrespective of whether you're doing AI or not, are going to give your people what they need to succeed in the modern new world of work that we're already in.
Yeah, and I think, even AI aside, from a geopolitics perspective, there is a lot of change in the world, and organizations are going to have to adapt. From small little businesses all the way up to large, massive corporates are going to have to realign the markets that they're attacking, the clients that they're trying to attract, customers that they're trying to service. And I think that framework would set you up really well for pretty much any one of those kind of big changes that are coming, whether it's technological, geopolitical.
Absolutely. 100%. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to go, Dara actually posted a question here. So it was kind of a statement, but I think it kind of ties in with us. We almost come to the end. Can you believe it? It's 30 minutes already. But
I know.
Dara posted here, great customer service and experience comes from how you make your customers and employees feel. Technology can't. So, I think with that thought process, let's kind of look ahead and say, in the next 5 to 10 years, with AI capabilities maturing, integrating more deeply into our companies, into our lives, what do you think the next leadership competencies? And when I say leadership, I'm literally meaning everybody that is listening to this, that is going to be participating, because essentially we are all leaders within the areas that we are working in. So, what would be the next set of skills that would be critical if you had to pick one, kind of going forward into this human AI alliance working environment?
Can I say that AI literacy is one skill, even though it's probably an umbrella set of skills? As a leader, in the past, I probably would not have said to leaders, you have to know all aspects of leadership to be an effective leader. When it comes to AI, you do need to understand some of the basics around AI so that you really can see what the potential is for your organization. But it also is to empower you to recognize that AI is not a hammer looking for nails. It's not always the answer to a business problem. So you need to be you need to know enough to be able to look through the lens and say, here's how AI can help us with our business results, with our operational excellence, and with our future agility in a way that no other tool can. So you need to know just enough about AI to be able to be comfortable in that space.
Yeah.
That's my biggest takeaway for leaders is get your knowledge just good enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to help.
I call it the BS meter. Just know enough that if you hear BS, you go, no.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool. So thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, I just want to thank the audience for joining us. I want to say thank you to Sharon and Dara for your questions. I really appreciate it. I think it added to the dynamic of today. Yeah, if you feel that it was useful, please share with your colleagues and your friends. We'd love to get their feedback. And if you want to reach out to me, it's lee.bristow@dawn-horizon.com. So in closing, Stephanie, where can the audience next hear you, find you on a stage or on a podcast, whatever the case may be? Where can they hear from you next?
Very good. I'm doing a podcast called Joe Joff Isn't Famous. And I'll post it up on my LinkedIn. I think it's in a couple of weeks' time, but I can't remember what the date is off the top of my head. He's a mad American, so he's going to be a great crack to go on to it with. And
Amazing.
if the audience are interested in knowing how ready their people are for AI, I have a really nice growth readiness scorecard on my website. It takes less than 3 minutes, and it gives you really good scores underneath culture, capacity, capability. So go to spconsulting.ie and you'll find it. And I was delighted to have this chat with you today, Lee. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And have a great day, everyone. Goodbye now.
Bye. Thank you.